Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Clemson Sports Show. It's been a while since we've done one of these. We're glad we're able to jump on and talk a little recruiting. Been a busy time with Clemson over the last couple of weeks, but Joseph's been crushing it. He's been traveling around, talked with several prospects. So first of all, Joseph, just how are you doing? How's everything been the last couple of weeks?
It's been a little bit hectic, Matt. Traveling, going from place to place. Orlando for the Under Armour All-America game. San Antonio for the All-American Bowl. I was just back in Florida the other weekend for Battle Miami, which was a really good event. I was in Atlanta. I was in Alabama. So it's really nice to be back home. I'm actually going to be heading out again this weekend. So stay tuned for some more content. But it's been really great to see some prospects, meet some coaches, meet some families. It's been great.
Yeah, so first of all, just kind of get us caught up on, I know Clemson fans who are listening to this are pretty aware, pretty caught up on where things are in recruiting. But can you just kind of get us, I guess, the last few commits Clemson's had, and maybe even track, since the early signing day, kind of who all's been added to the class since then?
Yeah, so this month, Clemson has been able to land 4 prospects, 4 out of their 9 targets. The first 2 came during the first official visit weekend of the month, which wasn't too much of a surprise. Cole Turner and Miles Oliver, both of whom received an offer within the 2 weeks that they had committed to Clemson. After their official visits that Sunday, they ended up committing to Clemson. Those were, solid additions, I guess, like this late in the process, but they weren't the big name victory that Clemson's hoping for down the stretch with a couple guys like Andrew Paul and Caden Story. So then we look over to Colin Griffin earlier this week, ended up committing to Clemson. I think that's probably their best victory on the recruiting trail thus far this month, post early signing period. You beat out the Nebraska Cornhuskers, which offered Kylan nearly a year ago. So they had longstanding relationships there. Clemson was able to beat out USC, the USC Trojans, to land Kylan as well. Kylan was expected to take an official visit to USC this weekend, but ended up canceling it. And I thought that was really impressive on Clemson's part that, he was going to be going from Alabama to California, 2 drastically different places. There's always the appeal of Los Angeles, and he opted not to take that visit because he wanted to commit to Clemson. He felt sold on the program, and it's a testament to what Dabo Swinney and his staff can do when they get prospects on campus for officials. And then the last one, Kobe
Hey,
McLeod.
I'll just interrupt you real quick. I'll add to that. I mean, Lincoln Riley and Southern Cal, it's not like you're beating out a Southern Cal program that's struggling on the recruiting trail right now. I mean, they're doing a nice job out there. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in. It's a program, Southern Cal program that's on the rise and doing well recruiting right now. So to get that one locked up for sure was good. But, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to mention that.
No, that's a really good point there because USC has been killing it, not only in the 2022 class. They've been kind of selective with their prospects, but they've been able to land their guys, Damani Jackson, CJ Williams, Raleek Brown, but also the 2023 class and the transfer portal. So they've been killing it on the recruiting trail. So to beat out USC for Colin was just huge. And, obviously, if we're being honest, I would take the free trip to Los Angeles. Like I would have been drawn to that. That would have been nice. Get 3 days out.
I'm with you.
Yeah, like it really shocked me when I was speaking with him, and he just told me, because I got to see him a few days ago on Monday. He just told me that he felt sold on Clemson. He just knew that was going to be his home, and he didn't feel like he needed to see USC. And then Kobe McLeod was their most recent addition. Ended up committing to Clemson on Wednesday night. That's a nice addition for Clemson. Obviously, you can kind of see a pattern for the prospects that they've been trying to bring in over these past few months, going back to Josh Sapp, players who have been related to members of the football program in the past, or even in the present in terms of Cole Turner and Nolan Turner, who just wrapped up his Clemson career. So Kobe McLeod, obviously the younger brother of Ray McLeod, former wide receiver there at Clemson. So look, there hasn't been the big name addition like Andrew Paul and Caden Story, although I do really like Colin Griffin and what Clemson had to do to land him. But, these prospects here are not expected to contribute this upcoming season too much. But, we'll see what happens down the line. You mentioned it before, Hunter Renfro and, other guys that Clemson's been able to bring in who may have been overlooked. They developed really well under Clemson. So we'll see what ends up happening with them and what happens with these other 5 remaining targets.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, like, with those guys that are coming in, I think it's just a new era of Clemson or of college football right now. with the transfer portal, with so many players leaving. You know, you're having this transfer portal, players going to the transfer portal literally every day from programs. So, you know, Clemson's lost several guys since last season started, and lost more since the regular season ended. You know, I don't think that that's a trend that's going to stop anytime soon. And so my thinking is, I think it's a win-win for both programs, or for both the program and the players. You know, these players get a bigger offer, get to be a part of a bigger program than maybe they're getting offered elsewhere right now. You know, for many of these players, it's their biggest offer, even by a wide margin in some instances. So you're getting to go be a part of a bigger program. You know, you're getting to train, get, you know, all the benefits that come with being a Division I FBS Power 5 athlete, especially at Clemson, where they do a good job, you know, from the food to the huge Dabo world to everything else. You know, it's a good place to go play college football. So for them, they get that. And then for Clemson, you get a prospect who's okay with maybe sitting around not sitting around, but, you know, being developed for a couple of years, putting in the work in the weight room, and isn't going to leave maybe if they're not playing right away. So I think it's just a win-win. You know, maybe 2, 3, 4 years from now, these guys are able to contribute more and nice guys to have on your roster. You know, I know they feel good about as far as a culture aspect with these guys, what they bring from that aspect as well, and kind of feel like it's good culture fit. So I think it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, and you mentioned the culture aspect. I had a chance to catch up with Kirk Johnson, who is Colin Griffin's head coach, and he just raved about him, said that he's going to miss him, talked about the type of person that he is, that Colin would hit him up on Saturdays after games and would say to him, I watched the film on this guy. This is what he likes to do. This is his tendencies. You know, he wasn't necessarily a leader in the locker room in terms of a vocal leader, but he can be a leader if he's pushed to it. You know, very hard worker. You know, Coach Johnson was saying that he comes from a great family, a great supporting family. And that's the kind of, you know, addition that Clemson's looking for. They want somebody who's going to be able to be a good presence for them on and off the field, an ambassador for the program. And, you know, looking at Kylan, looking at his teammate TJ Dudley, who we're going to get to here in a second, those would be two massive additions if they can get them as a package deal at the next level. And yeah, going right into TJ, he's one of 5 remaining targets for Clemson in this 2022 cycle. The others being Andrew Paul, Caden Story, Jaheim Lawson, who we'll get into this situation. He was originally supposed to commit earlier this week, said it in a tweet that he's going to be committing at 7, ended up not doing so. So Jaheim's one of them. And then also Keith Adams Jr., who is a recent addition to the public. We reported, you know, we didn't necessarily report that he was going to be pursued by Clemson, but we mentioned his name a few weeks ago on the Tigers Den message board. And that's an interesting player right there. You know, he received a gray shirt offer from Clemson in October 2020, now has a full scholarship offer from the program, going to be taking an official visit this weekend. You know, I really feel confident that Clemson's going to end up landing them. So those are the 5 remaining targets right now. And maybe there's a secret 6th one that we don't know about, but those are the 5 to focus on.
Yeah, and out of those, Andrew Paul is probably the biggest name. And his recruitment, man, it's been kind of interesting to watch it kind of blow up. I mean, Georgia entered the picture over the last few days. So, you know, he could end up taking a visit there this weekend. So Clemson's got its work cut out. But, yeah, obviously finishing, you know, if they can finish 5 for 5, it would be a great job for them. And you know, man, it's kind of fun to track recruiting. A lot of years at this time in the year, Clemson's kind of got his whole class done. It's, you know, I think last year, even maybe in the last couple of years, we didn't even have a signing day press conference because there were no new guys to talk about. So there's going to be plenty of guys to talk about this year. It's kind of fun tracking it here. You know, heading into February here as signing day gets closer and closer.
Yeah, to land. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just do you want to talk just a little bit about, you know, I guess what you kind of learned visiting with Caden's story, visiting with some of these guys. And, you know, we've had full stories up on ClemsonSports.com for several days now for subscribers. Hopefully y'all are subscribed, or if not, you'll consider it and come check it out. 7-day free trial right now. So it's a great time to try that with signing day coming up. But yeah, would encourage y'all to subscribe, check that out, come join us on the Tigers Den and the message board. But just kind of what are some things you've shared with subscribers here over the last week or so, I guess.
Yeah, so Caden Story got to visit him earlier this week during my trip to Alabama. And, you know, just first of all, really great kid. Enjoyed talking with him and his dad, Clifford. And they both shed some insight into Clemson and why they emerged as Obviously, by a lot of people's perspective and opinion, as the favorite to land him on signing day. Florida's in the mix, Auburn's in the mix as well, of course, but Clemson, led by Nick Eason, just feels like they have all the momentum right here. Actually, as we speak, Dabo Swinney and Nick Eason, they took a visit out to Leblanc to go ahead and actually, it wasn't Leblanc. They visited Opelika High School. That's where Caden and his teammates are going to be playing. So they took a visit there. Obviously, we saw the videos on Twitter of Nick Eason playing with the guitar last week during the in-home visit. Caden took an official visit to Clemson this past weekend. Everything seemed to go really well. It feels like everything that Clemson presents with Nick Eason, the faith-based culture, which is really important for Caden. I was talking with his dad. He said that Caden always has a Bible in his room, always reading verses. Those kind of things really matter to him. The culture fit at Clemson is obviously there. The possibility of playing with the defensive linemen that they have in town right now. Miles Murphy, Brian Bresee, Tyler Davis. You have a bunch of guys that you can kind of learn from. All of that is kind of factoring into why I believe Clemson is the favorite right now. Can't rule out Florida. They got this last official visit coming up the weekend before signing day. Billy Napier, the head coach at Florida, visited for an in-home visit. Caden and his family on Wednesday, they played horse, had a good time apparently. And Florida is a school that his dad told me that Caden has liked for quite some time. And it is a state that he really likes as well. And Billy Napier actually offered him at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. So there's a little bit of a connection there. I have a hard time seeing Auburn really coming out on top just because of him decommitting and the fact that he delayed his signing day from early signing period to national signing day in the first place. It felt like there was some initial hesitation, and Eason leaving prompted him to decommit. So it's Clemson and then maybe Florida, and then really not likely Auburn. I feel comfortable right now with where things stand with Caden and Clemson.
Yeah, and before we move on and kind of talk about a transfer portal edition that Clemson had, wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit about Nathaniel Joseph, who you went down to Miami, and you were down there for the 7-on-7. I know you were really impressed with the way he played. Just what did you see from him in that tournament?
So before talking about how he played, what really stood out to me is just how much weight he's put on. I saw Nathaniel back in October, and one of the things I was a little bit concerned about was that he looked a little skinny, didn't look like he would be able to take some hits at the next level, especially when you're playing in the slot and running slants and going over the middle of the field. You get concerned that maybe your body won't be able to hold up if you're not there physically. He's addressed those issues. He said he's put on about 6 to 7 pounds since I last saw him. Clemson staff went out to Miami Edison High School to see his practice the other day. They came away very impressed with how he looked physically, so they've taken notice of that as well. And then just on the football field, he hasn't lost that speed, even though he's put on some more pounds. He's as fast. He's the fastest guy that I saw there at the camp. And, I went around and saw plenty of teams throughout the course of the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. And there's just nobody who has that quick burst that Nathaniel has, the ability to take it to another gear, even while running his routes. There would be plenty of times where he's running fast and then just you don't think he can go any faster, and he just does and takes it up to another level and creates that separation. It's really tough in 7-on-7 settings to run traditional routes, especially with the field conditions they were playing in with the mud. But Nathaniel made the most of it, and he actually had this one play that was the highlight of the weekend, in my opinion. Caught a pass in the flat or just a few yards downfield, and he was about to be tagged by the player. Obviously, there's no tackling in flag in 7-on-7 football. He was about to be tagged, jumped back, kind of lost his footing, went to the right, caused his defender to do a split almost, and then just took off for a few more yards down the field. Just excellent balance, excellent footwork there for him to keep himself upright. This guy really he's really kind of the total package in terms of what you're looking for in a slot receiver. Has reliable hands, didn't drop a ball from what I was able to see, and just a really good player. I mean, Clemson should be really happy with who they're getting, not only in Nathaniel Joseph, but also in Antonio Williams, going to really address those slot concerns that were present this past season.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Just it's going to be so fun to watch those two in the slot for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, they're just dynamic playmakers. I haven't seen them in person like you have, but I've seen plenty of film of them, and man, they're fun to watch. So looking forward to that. All right, let's touch on the transfer portal edition. This is a guy I actually probably know a little bit more about him because I covered him when he was here before at Clemson. But Hunter Johnson, Clemson finally went to the transfer portal, brought in Hunter Johnson. Just what did you make of that? And then after you talk about it a little bit, I'll jump in as well.
Yeah, so when I heard that Clemson got a transfer portal edition, I almost lost my mind. I was like, it's happening. After some speculation that it was gonna go down with a couple of other guys. They were pursuing the Virginia offensive lineman. They reached out to Osiris Torrance, the big offensive lineman who ended up going to Florida, and Jason Jones. It felt like this was going to happen eventually, and then to turn out that this was somebody who already had signed with Clemson, who's already familiar with the program, and you talked with him. He was going to be a GA. He was going to be a GA. That was the initial approach between him and Dabo Swinney, and then Dabo said, "Look, you can get a spot on here, get another shot." At Clemson, obviously he's not expected to play, this upcoming year, but he's going to be a good mentor for DJ and Cade. Just a perfect situation in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it worked out just perfect for everyone involved. I mean, Hunter told me that when he jumped into the portal, which he had been in the portal for a little bit, he kind of was considering playing, but he also was really considering just going ahead and being a graduate assistant. And he wanted to have the perfect situation if he did go somewhere and play, but he was also kind of just ready to move on and begin the next step of his life and the next phase of his career. So, he jumps into the portal. He ends up reaching out to Dabo and says, "Hey, I'd be really interested in coming and being a GA. Do y'all have any spots open?" And Dabo said, "Well, we've got a quarterback spot open. How about just not coaching, but how about you come play with us?" So, I thought it was interesting that he said Dabo doesn't want him to come in and try to compete for the starting job. He made it clear, look, DJ's our quarterback. We signed Cade. We feel good about Cade. We want you to just come in, be a good presence in that room. And, if there's an emergency, if you have a quarterback get hurt, if you have, someone struggling and really struggling, and maybe, Cade doesn't quite have the offense down yet, or DJ's really struggling and you want to let him sit for a series or something, or even if it's a blowout and you don't want to risk an injury or whatever, Hunter can go in. He knows the offense. He's experienced. This is a guy that started some games at Northwestern. He's a former 5-star recruit. It's not just, some random guy that they just found in the portal who can play quarterback. So I think it's a great situation all around. I think it makes a ton of sense. It's not exactly the portal edition I thought we would see out of Clemson, but I think it makes a lot of sense for all parties involved. And, I'm excited to see Hunter back at Clemson.
Look, we know what Dabo Swinney and his staff want with a transfer portal edition, or at least we have an idea of what they want. They're not going to take a player who's going to contribute for 1 year, like a Jamison Williams, only has 1 year of eligibility. No, I mean, Jamison had a couple of years of eligibility, but, we knew that with a strong season that he was going to potentially go to the NFL draft. Dabo's not looking for a 1 year solution. He's looking for 2-3 years, get a guy who's the right culture fit, get somebody that's going to be able to contribute to the team. Because he had mentioned before when talking in a press conference, he said, look, we're not necessarily going to go after guys who struggled, couldn't make the spot on another team, and that's why they're in the transfer portal. He said there's kind of a reason why they're in the portal. They want players who are going to be able to contribute, and they don't necessarily want to make it a bad look for the current guys that they have on their roster or guys that they're bringing in. Like, they didn't want to bring in a Caleb Williams, and then kind of ruin that relationship that they've been building with Cade Klubnik, and taking a guy in Caleb who would potentially start for 2 years and then put Cade and DJ on the back burner. That's not what Dabo Swinney wants to do. With a guy like Osiris Torrance, they needed a guard. With a guy like Olusegun Oluwatimi, who ended up going to Michigan, they needed a center. So
that was impressive, by the way. Well done.
I hope I pronounced it right. I believe I've been working on it. So they want guys who are going to be able to contribute, or potentially, as was the case with Jason Jones, they were kind of exploring it. They didn't really make a strong push there, but maybe provide some depth and contribute after a year. But Hunter Johnson, look, he's a grad transfer, so he's not technically the transfer portal win, like a second or third year guy heading to the portal. like a Jermaine Burton or Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, but he's going to be a solid addition in terms of the leadership that he'll bring in the locker room. He's had a lot of experience. He knows the Clemson culture, smart dude. He's going to be able to help Cade and help DJ. And I think Clemson's really excited to have him in the fold. This could potentially be the biggest addition for them, or one of the biggest additions looking back on it, in the month of January, in terms of the impact it could have on a Cade and DJ, who definitely need that leadership going forward. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in the transfer portal. I don't believe they're pursuing anybody right now, but like you mentioned, there's guys entering the portal every single day. So we'll see if they try and get one more. But it seems like they're content with Hunter and content with the 5 other guys they're going after in the 2022 class.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll push back on a little bit is I don't think it's their preference to take a 1-year guy. I know you mentioned Jamison Williams, a guy that's not going to be there long. But I do think if they felt like they had a need and they could go out and get a guy who could come in and start right away, I do think Dabo would take that. I did a story a while back and mentioned cornerback as maybe a position where, look, if there's a guy that jumps in the portal who's an all SEC guy and for whatever reason, maybe a coach leaves or whatever it is, and he decides he wants to leave, I think Clemson could use a corner right now. I mentioned receiver even as well as potentially a position. So, I do think
even if it's for 1 year, if it's a 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm. I think they would if it's going to be, and Dabo's said before, he would take a guy for 1 year, but they're going to have to be a starter. It's going to have to be someone where it's no doubt, they're coming in to start. They're going to have to be absolute stud, a guy that's going to come in and it's not going to be a contest or they're going to be like a 4th string or, anything like that. It's going to be a guy that's going to come in and start right away. So I do think they would consider it. It's not their first option. But, if they got in a situation where they really needed one, if someone opened up in the portal, I do think they would consider it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing who they end up getting in the future because, Hunter Johnson, before the time of the one-time transfer, Clemson has gotten guys, correct me if I'm wrong, who are grad transfers. Go ahead.
Not many.
not many, but they have. This isn't like something that's unprecedented. That it's the first time it's happened, and it's not necessarily the big splashy name that a lot of fans were hoping for, but like we mentioned before, he'll bring that leadership, he'll bring that experience with him, and I think Clemson will be very happy about it.
Matt, as far as grad transfer guys, it's mostly just been guys that are walk-ons or. They haven't gone and gotten like a grad transfer who's come in and contributed or anything. There was a Stanford quarterback several years ago. It was actually before I was on the beat who transferred in, but he transferred in to be like a 3rd string guy. So they haven't really had any guys that they really counted on come in even from the portal.
Yeah, and Hunter's not going to be somebody that they necessarily count on. He's gonna be more of the locker room presence. But yeah, we'll see if. Like I mentioned before, we'll be monitoring it. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen this cycle in terms of getting that big splashy name who's going to immediately contribute. But Clemson is fine with the 5 targets that they have right now. And talking about those targets, as I mentioned before, T.J. Dudley, Keith Adams Jr. are going to be visiting this weekend. Both are expected to make their decisions on Wednesday, National Signing Day, alongside Caden Story. We're going to be monitoring Andrew Paul. Like you mentioned, he may be taking that official visit to Georgia, which Georgia, look, those Clemson-Georgia battles, I love them. I love those recruiting battles between them. And Georgia was kind of slick with what they did, offering Andrew the day of the end of his official visit to Clemson. So I thought that was really interesting. And then obviously Jaheim Lawson. I'm still expecting Clemson to come out on top. It's a little bit weird what went down there, and we'll kind of touch on it here, Matt. You and I were both in contact with one another. We were kind of scrambling. I was on the road, not too sure what was going to happen there. But, yeah, Jaheim was supposed to commit on Monday, 7 o'clock. He tweeted it out, never ended up committing. We're sitting here recording on Thursday night, still hasn't committed. What do you think about this situation?
Yeah, it's just kind of strange. I asked him if he was still planning on committing that night. I guess I asked around 8 or so, and he said hopefully, after he said he was originally going to commit at 7, and then nothing else from him since then. So we'll see. I think we've probably both reached out to him and haven't heard back yet. Kind of what the plan is. So stay tuned, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you start to wonder if anything necessarily happened between him and Clemson. If another school started to enter the mix, what may have happened there?
I don't think it would be another school. I mean, I haven't heard of anything happening with Clemson. I guess it's possible, but I don't think it would be a situation where another school would come in and have a chance to overtake Clemson just with the relationships and everything there. So
just
it's a little strange.
Just wondering what went down, because honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't commit on January 16th, which is when Miles Oliver and Cole Turner committed. And then he was telling me a few days, that same day that he was probably looking at Thursday or Friday, that following Thursday or Friday, then ends up pushing it back and, wants to commit this Monday here that we were talking about, and ends up not doing it. So is he trying to make this a National Signing Day surprise where he gets the hats on the table? Most people are expecting Clemson to come out on top, so it wouldn't really be too much of a surprise. But it's interesting how this is going down. I know Clemson would like to get as many guys in the fold before National Signing Day as possible, and then get a couple of good surprises on NSD itself to add to that momentum. But we're going to be closely monitoring.
Look, it is entirely possible that he's waiting on his commitment video and it's still not ready. Or, there's plenty of things that are possible. We're speculating right now, but it could just be something really simple that it wasn't ready yet. So recruiting, it's always something crazy going on. So who's to say,
Yes, and speaking of crazy things going on, Clemson's going to be having a junior day, January 29th, this upcoming Saturday. They're going to be playing host to a lot of guys. Peter Woods is expected to be there, big-time defensive lineman out of Alabama. Staying in Alabama, Keldrick Faulk, a recent offer, is expected to be there. Christopher Vizina, the quarterback that Clemson's heavily pursuing, is also supposed to be there as well. A couple guys that I had mentioned before that I thought were a possibility or was told that could be a possibility. Ethan Nation, AJ Harris, I'm told they're not going to be there this upcoming weekend. Monroe Freeling, he's another in-state offensive lineman. He's an in-state offensive lineman that Clemson's pursuing. He's not expected to be there, wants to check out some other schools. So, there's going to be a lot of guys going there. Keith Sampson Jr., he's another recent offer. Derek LeBlanc out of Florida, he's expected to be there. So, yeah, Clemson's not going to have the 140 or so visitors that Texas had for their junior day, but I think they like it like that. They want to have.
Yeah, they like doing that kind of more personable approach and getting to talk to guys, more and instead of having a ton of people there. So, yeah, I think they definitely are selective with who they're inviting to this.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see which approach is better. I don't think you can really measure it quantifiably. Texas and Miami had big junior days, but that must come at the cost of coaches spending time with spending a sufficient amount of time with prospects during their visits. Clemson's, that's not going to be the case with them. They're going to have staff members for each kid. They're going to spend a good amount of time with them. And look, we saw it with Colin Griffin. We saw it with Cole Turner, Miles Oliver, Kobe Mcleod. They take visits to the school and, they fall in love with it. They Clemson puts on a good presentation. And I know it's not going to be as extensive as an official visit, but the junior day, I expect Clemson to roll out the red carpet and make a strong impression here. So will we get a commitment out of this? Will Clemson get a commitment out of this? I don't think so with the prospects in attendance. Now, if like a Monroe Freeling had gone, maybe so. Maybe Sam Pendleton out of North Carolina could be somebody to monitor. But we'll see with those two what ends up happening. I believe that Clemson leads for Monroe and is in a really good spot with Sam. So, yeah, I expect, if anything, maybe one commitment out of this junior day. Nothing too crazy, though. This is just going to be about relationship building and making sure that they get on campus in the spring sometime.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have all that covered. Joseph will have plenty of content from junior day and throughout, the rest of the next couple of weeks leading up until National Signing Day next week. And then after that as well with all the junior day and everything else. So y'all stay tuned to ClemsonSports.com. Encourage y'all to subscribe. Like I said, 7-day free trial going on right now. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Anything else you want to add, Joseph, before we finish this off?
Nothing too crazy. Just stay tuned. We're going to be rolling out a lot of content over these next few days. It's going to be a lot of time in front of the computer here for me, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited to potentially hit the road as well. see the Cam Newton 7-on-7 tryouts, get some content from there, talk with some people, build some relationships, and maybe get out to Alabama again next week for some visit recaps. So yeah, be sure to be on the lookout. Take advantage of that 7-day free trial, and we're going to be doing these podcasts more often. It's just been a lot for both of us recently, health wise and traveling and all of that. So be sure to be on the lookout for more videos, and stay tuned to our podcast page as well.